On this Thursday night, Saskatchewan pays its respects, while across the country, Canadians pay tribute. In Humboldt, family and friends said farewell to radio play-by-play announcer Tyler Bieber. And we hear from one of the players who survived the horrific bus crash. Meanwhile, across the country on Jersey Day, people have been wearing their support.
Also tonight, from Washington to London, the world weighs the cost of an attack on Syria.
And that issue is here to take on the Prime Minister, pipelines, and the growing feud between Alberta and BC. This is The National.
Six days after the bus crash, Humboldt, Saskatchewan said goodbye to one of the victims. Tonight, we return to the community to share their grief for those who died and their hope for those who survived. Tonight, we'll look at how Humboldt is coping after today's funeral service for Broncos play-by-play announcer Tyler Bieber. And with more funerals to come, Canadians keep stepping up with a powerful gesture of solidarity and financial support that could have a big impact for those facing permanent disabilities. Meanwhile, the police investigation continues and families are making the difficult trip to the crash site and they wait for answers. Let's begin our coverage tonight with Susan Ormiston, who's in Humboldt, where the emotional weight of this tragedy only seems to increase.
The first of 16 funerals, one today, two tomorrow, lives cut short, the finality sinking in.
You've lived a long time in these parts. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Nothing even close. Nothing even close. It'll be a long, long haul to get over this, and I don't think we ever will.
It'll take time. I buried one of my own sons. I know what it's like, so it's very hard. It's something you live with forever. It never goes away.
Tyler Bieber was the Broncos play-by-play announcer for Bolt FM.
Joseph in front for look at that!
He loved calling hockey, and it was playoff time. Today, like all week, the radio station stayed on air with announcers called in from across the province.
It's a simple gesture, but one that can help brighten your day. The Surratt family tied green and yellow ribbons around trees and lampposts in Humboldt.
Everyone else was at his funeral.
They're friends. They're more than just co-workers, so it's been a tough week.
In Humboldt, the florist can hardly keep up with the orders from close by and far away, mostly green and yellow flowers.
Everything you see is the Bronco colors. That's what all across the world, that's what they want.
The whole of Humboldt, it seems, is at half-mast. On the surface strong, but underneath still trembling. A local priest leads tomorrow's funeral.
But a lot of people are in a state of shock and denial. They don't know what to do with this tragedy.
Nearly 1 week since the collision, and people are drawn to the site, where in 1 second the team bus and a semi-trailer hit. No explanations yet. They share a painful yearning to see where their loved ones ended up. The Thomas's family lost their son Evan, just 18.
My son was a rookie. He'd have been 4 or 5 seats back from the coach, right behind the driver's door. I was able to see roughly where I would think he would have been laying.
Evan's funeral comes on Monday. If there is one saving grace here, it is community. The signs everywhere that this grief is shared.
And Susan Ormiston joins us now live from really the center of that community, Elgar Peterson Arena in Humboldt. We've seen some creative tributes for the Broncos, hockey sticks, jerseys, and now we hear hockey announcers will be pitching in as well.
Yeah, that strength of spirit, Ian. The latest is Les Lazaruk, the voice of the Saskatoon Blades, shouted out today on Twitter saying, hey, how about all us announcers do a play-by-play for each of the Broncos games next season? That's 58 games, and guess what? He's got enough names now to have 2 announcers per game for free if the league agrees.
It has been a grueling week, but as we were discussing last night, hockey will soon be resuming in the league that the Broncos play in.
Yeah, dark arenas are not good for the soul for anyone around here. So the fact that the Junior League finals are resuming on Saturday is at least something to cheer about, Ian. Now, for the families most closely affected, there are still days and days of letting go.
All right, Susan, thank you. As we've reported, the RCMP is saying very little about their investigation into the crash, but for the first time, we're hearing from someone who was inside the bus and survived. Ryan Strashnitsky was critically injured, but he remembers a lot about what happened. Here's some of what he shared by phone with CBC's Heather Hiscox.
Well, I was on my phone texting my girlfriend, and because we were near Nipawin, and all of a sudden the bus driver screamed "whoa" and saw the semi-truck in front of us and blacked out and woke up. I'm not sure how long later, but facing the bus. So out the window I flew out of, and not sure how long I was there for, but it was pretty devastating. And seeing my teammates lying there and bloodied and whatnot, my first instinct was to get up and help them, but I couldn't move my legs. So, and then of course the first responder came, and she did the best she could, and EMS eventually came, and that's kind of blacked out from there.
There was a picture that I saw yesterday of you meeting the first responder who helped you.
It was definitely very emotional. She kind of told me what happened and thanked her a lot, and she gave me her good luck charm necklace, and I was just thankful. Words can't describe how heartwarming that was.
I understand you were moved. You tried the wheelchair for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go?
It was hard for sure. Just the setup. It was difficult because I've never done it before, and you don't have much core stability when you can't move anything past your chest line, and it was tough sitting in it. But pain is temporary, so just pushed through it and then got to lay in bed again.
We've been showing pictures of Canadians across this country who are wearing jerseys and sending the most incredibly loving messages. Are you hearing those?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Every little thing helps, for sure. People are putting sticks out on their front door. It's pretty heartwarming, so it's a pretty positive impact on all of us, I think.
And here's a little more on those jerseys that Heather and Ryan were talking about. Canadians across the country are wearing them in support of Ryan and the rest of the team as part of Jersey Day. Ditching their regular garb, people sporting the jerseys in honor of the Broncos and their families, at home, at work, it seems like wherever they were, all inspired by a group of hockey moms here in British Columbia who pitched Jersey Day on Facebook under the hashtag Jerseys for Humboldt. It took off in a massive way, with people taking part, not just in this country, but the United States as well, even as far away as China. Canada's largest city, for example, jumping in with both feet. Toronto's Mayor John Tory officially declared today Jersey Day. Here's a look at how students across the city took part.
First today.
You need some letters too, right?
Wearing a jersey connects us to the hockey world, and showing a jersey means that we actually care about what's going on in the world right now, and about the Humboldt tragedy.
I'm hoping to tell them that we all support them and we're all here for them.
We're here for you, and we have your backs, and we're here. We're all one big community, and we got you.
All right, team, let's break it up. Have a great day.
We seek to mourn as one Canadian family. The Broncos were on their way to making their dreams come true.
I can't really recall any time that this has ever happened before, and especially in my hockey community, my thoughts go out to them as a current hockey player myself.
I think about it most nights since it happened, all those kids who had families, and when they died, so much was taken from those families so fast.
It really does hurt. Because they had their entire lives ahead of them. They could have done so much, and their lives were just cut so short.
It's a
tragedy because one small mistake on the road can happen, and now like 16 people are dead because of this small accident.
I think about how many families lost their children.
If I could talk to them, I would say that I'm very sorry and that your children were very young and still had a long life to live, and it was very unfortunate that it happened.
We'll have more on how Canadians took part in Jersey Day throughout the program. As for the Humboldt Broncos' response to all of this, well, here's what the team tweeted today. We see you, we hear you, we love you. We are all Humboldt strong. And Canadians continue to open their wallets to help. This evening, the online fundraising campaign passed $10 million. That money, plus the insurance payouts, will be badly needed to help repair the physical and emotional scars. Nicole Ireland talked to a Toronto man who underwent a difficult recovery of his own to find out what crash survivors can expect.
Like so many Canadians in the last few days, Kevin Rempel set out his hockey sticks to pay tribute to those killed in the bus crash.
I've been on the bus with the guys playing sledge hockey before, and we all know what it's like. That scenario essentially could happen to any one of us.
In addition to mourning the dead, Rempel feels a personal connection to the injured players. More than 10 years ago, a motocross accident left him with a spinal injury. Doctors told him he may never walk again.
I've been in that super dark place.
Rempel did eventually walk again, but he still struggles with disability. He knows all too well that recovery takes not only an emotional toll, but a financial one.
It's everything from your medications to if you need to use catheters, to a vehicle with hand controls to start driving yourself around again, especially things like modifying your home.
Because this was a road accident, some of those costs will be covered by insurance. Then there are the millions of dollars pouring in through GoFundMe. It's up to the Humboldt Broncos to decide how that money will be distributed. Team Vice President Randy McLean told CBC today that they're still in the midst of grieving, and it will take time before families and injured players can tell them what they need. But another tragedy that drew millions of dollars in crowdfunding was the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando in 2016. 49 people were killed, dozens more wounded. The American lawyer who helped distribute donations then says it's important not to delay too long.
Get the money out as fast as you can and shut it down so that people can move on as best they can.
The money raised for the Humboldt Broncos may seem like a lot, but Kevin Rempel knows costs people aren't even thinking about now can arise in the future.
I'm over 10 years later, but there's still elements of my life that I spend extra money on to make my life easier.
Nicole Ireland, CBC News, Toronto.
And some information now on the memorial services that are being held tomorrow for two of the players killed in the crash. A celebration of life will be held for Jacob Light at the Humboldt Uniplex. That's at 10 a.m. local time. And there will be a funeral mass for Adam Harold at the Sacred Heart Roman Catholic Church in his hometown of Momart, Saskatchewan at 2 p.m. local time. Adam was the youngest member of this team. He would have turned 17 today.
For days now, a diplomatic storm has raged over Syria, raising the prospect of direct missile attacks between U.S. and Russian forces, a prelude to war that would shake the world. But today, those tough-talking nuclear powers took it down a notch.
The immediate priority is to avert the danger of war. We want any strikes to be avoided in the first place.
Donald Trump also tempered his tone. Still, forces were set in motion last Saturday when the Syrian regime seemed to cross Trump's red line with an alleged chemical attack on a rebel stronghold. Investigators from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons arrived in Syria today on a mission to determine whether toxic gas was indeed used in Douma. But not helping things, the president's apparent addiction to Twitter. His rhetoric often flies in the face of established U.S. policy, reversals and contradictions which seem to change by the day and by the hour, much of it baffling to the rest of the world. And as Paul Hunter tells us, navigating the president's tweets, especially in this case, is proving to be a foreign policy challenge.
With Russian forces stationed throughout Syria, Russia's warning to the U.S. remains. A missile strike against its ally, Syria, will be treated as a war crime, and Russia will fire back at the missiles and at wherever they're fired from. This as Donald Trump continued to consider his options, tweeting today an attack could be very soon or not so soon at all. Later adding,
"We're looking very, very seriously, very closely at that whole situation, and we'll see what happens, folks."
Ever since that suspected gas attack on a rebel enclave outside Damascus last weekend, blamed on the regime of Bashar al-Assad, who denies any involvement, the expectation has been of a forceful U.S. response. A year ago, after another such gas attack, 59 cruise missiles were fired at Syrian targets. Syria demonstrated soon after there seemed to be minimal damage. So, if there's a strike now, most believe it will be significantly more robust. But will a Russian counter-response signal war?
We cannot exclude any possibilities, unfortunately, because we saw messages that are coming from Washington. They were very bellicose. They know we are there. I hope, I wish there was a dialogue through appropriate channels on this to avert any dangerous development.
All of this as Donald Trump's pick for his new Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, weighed in on war broadly during his confirmation hearings on Capitol Hill.
It's the last resort. It must always be so. And I intend to work to achieve the president's policies with diplomacy, rather by sending our young men and women to war.
Senators pushed Pompeo to beware what one deemed the president's worst instincts. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
It is hard to believe the threat of war took shape in just 5 short days. Here's how it happened. Saturday, images of agony appear to show people in Duma being treated for a chemical attack. Sunday, Donald Trump fires off a menacing tweet. President Putin, Russia, and Iran are responsible for backing animal Assad. Big price to pay. Monday, Russia calls Western allegations about chemical weapons a serious provocation and warns the U.S. of grave repercussions if it attacks Syria. Trump responds with bluster.
We're the greatest fighting force anywhere in the world. So we're going to make a decision tonight or very shortly thereafter.
Tuesday, Russia vetoes a U.S. motion to have the UN investigate whether Syria uses chemical weapons.
History will record that on this day, Russia chose protecting a monster over the lives of the Syrian people.
Wednesday, the Kremlin calls for restraint over Syria, but reports quote a Russian diplomat threatening reprisal if the U.S. strikes, and Trump responds. Russia vows to shoot down any and all missiles fired at Syria, he tweets. Get ready, Russia, because they will be coming nice and new and smart. Today, French fighter jets fly a training exercise, but the major players tone things down. While this seemed to be a day for sober second thought, it could also be the calm before the storm. Tonight, President Trump spoke with British Prime Minister Theresa May about the need for an international response. That happened just hours after Britain's war cabinet said the UK would take part in military action. And as Margaret Evans reports, the recent chemical attack on British soil is a factor in its resolve.
Are you convinced of the case for military action?
British cabinet ministers arriving at Downing Street.
Mr. Williamson!
Summoned back from spring recess to deliberate over the coming storm. But the wheels of decision-making can be slow to turn, and Britain's position is a complicated one. The diplomatic crisis between Russia and Western nations, all those diplomatic expulsions, found its feet here first, with the alleged use of a nerve agent against the former Russian spy, Sergei Skripal, and his daughter, Yulia. The British Prime Minister Theresa May's assertion that Russia was likely to blame prompted a surprising unity of purpose in the West when you consider how wary EU countries are of an unpredictable Trump presidency. Today, the head of Britain's main surveillance agency linked what he called an emboldened Russia with the turmoil in Syria.
It demonstrates how reckless Russia is prepared to be, how little the Kremlin cares for the international rules-based order.
But Western unity on any military intervention in Syria could be much harder to maintain. May's cabinet agreed Britain should work towards a coordinated international response to allegations Syria has used chemical weapons. But that doesn't mean she'll get a free pass from the public or the opposition.
More bombing, more killing, more war will not save life, will just take more lives.
Syria has denied the allegations against it. And many analysts say whatever Western powers agree to do, it's unlikely to change the course of the conflict.
Assad and Putin have basically won the war, and the sooner they're allowed to end this war, the better it would be for Syria.
That, of course, will depend on your point of view. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Here's a look at what else we're working on tonight on The National. Are you one of thousands of Canadians who have trouble finding a doctor? The problem could be faulty matchmaking between med school grads and residency programs. We'll tell you about a serious problem affecting the whole system.
And it's Thursday, and that means At Issue. Tonight, pipelines, premiers, and the PM. Justin Trudeau is interrupting his international trip to cool tensions between Alberta and BC. Will it work?
And throughout the hour, Jersey Day across the country. We'll introduce you to more Canadians helping to keep spirits up in Humboldt by wearing their favorite team's colors, like these folks in the Prairie Heartland.
This is the only jersey that I actually have. So I just kind of wanted to wear it to show support. It's kind of nice just seeing how many people are standing together to support the people that have suffered throughout this, and just kind of nice to see even the whole country kind of standing together, and people from other countries and everything. Just it's kind of nice.
If there's any question about how tense things have gotten between Alberta and BC over the Trans Mountain Pipeline, consider this. The Prime Minister is cutting short his trip to Peru at the Summit of the Americas to get the premiers of both provinces in the same room at the same time to try and work it out. At Issue is here to take on pipeline politics. But first, a look at the players and what's at stake. John Horgan is out to make a political point.
We're going to put in place a scientific panel to focus specifically on what the consequences of diluted bitumen would be in our marine environment.
After pushback from the Alberta government, he's going to court instead to have them rule on whether BC has the jurisdiction to stop the pipeline. On the other side, Rachel Notley's Alberta NDP.
This is not a dispute between BC and Alberta. It is a dispute between BC and Canada.
She retaliated against Horgan's proposed restrictions by starting a boycott on BC wine. The boycott was short-lived, but now the Premier says she's willing to buy the pipeline to stop Kinder Morgan from pulling away. Justin Trudeau's Liberals have one pipeline left. They denied permits for Northern Gateway. Energy East was abandoned by TransCanada after costly delays. Keystone XL still stuck in bureaucratic muck. Kinder Morgan is a last attempt to show this government can do energy development and the environment.
The question is not whether the pipeline is going to get built. The question is how the pipeline gets built, and we are looking at all options.
Finally, Kinder Morgan, the company, pumping millions of dollars into this pipeline every week. On Sunday, it suspended investment in all non-essential work.
There are those out there who are at this point calling this moment that we are in a constitutional crisis for the country. And I don't know really that that's too far off.
Okay, some pretty strong words. Joining me to talk them all over at Issue, Chantal Hébert is in Toronto, Andrew Coyne is in Regina tonight, and Althea Raj is in Ottawa. Good to see everybody. Let's start with the latest news today that the Prime Minister is going to come back from Peru on Sunday and get everybody in a room and, I don't know, hash it out, try and come up with a solution. Chantal, let's start with you. What could we expect from that meeting? What has to happen?
I think the fact that the meeting is taking place is probably important when it comes to optics for the Prime Minister, who needs to put himself in the frame more aggressively by both sides if he's going to fend off criticism that he's missing in action. I'm not sure what can be accomplished because neither premier has very much room to maneuver. Rachel Notley obviously is not going to come out of there saying, oh, well, it's okay, Kinder Morgan can go. And Premier Organ leads a minority government that is propped up by the Green Party. And I can't imagine him turning around and saying, well, we're going to drop all our objections to the pipeline because it would likely cost him possibly his government and possibly the election.
Okay, Andrew, what do you think that meeting has to accomplish?
Well, it's probably a meeting that should have happened before, but sometimes you have to wait for things to get crazy before they can get sane. But I think there's, where we're at here is there's some backstory to this. I think the Prime Minister and the federal government was late in arriving at this story, was maybe thought they could underplay it and things would somehow work out. But I think communicated a signal that they didn't have a great deal of resolve in this file. I think a lot of people are probably still betting that when push comes to shove, they'll back down on this. Similarly, the BC government, I think, ran on this platform of, well, we're going to use every tool in the toolbox to stop this. I think certainly they know now, and I think they knew at the time, they didn't have the legal authority. They probably wanted to execute that well-known strategy of governments of saying one thing in campaigns and then doing something else in government. But the problem was they found themselves in power, propped up by the Greens, and so they can't go back on their word even if they wanted to. So you've got situations with deeply entrenched positions, with, I think, some miscalculation of people's resolve. The government is now saying, the federal government is now saying the pipeline will be built come hell or high water, but it's a little late, as I say, to have kind of firmed up their backbone on this.
Okay, Althea, your take on the timing of this meeting.
Well, I mean, I think the timing is the result of the fact that the Prime Minister was getting a lot of flack, not just for taking Wednesday off this week, but basically going off on a foreign trip for 10 days while this crisis was brewing at home. And so he's coming back, making a pit stop in Ottawa for a few hours, and then heading back to France for Canada's first official visit there with Mr. Trudeau as Prime Minister. I'm not sure what can come out of the meeting. As Chantal and Andrew said, both sides are really so far apart, not just in terms of their own policy viewpoints, but it's basically political suicide for them to have any sort of compromise. So it's hard to see what Justin Trudeau can tell John Horgan, for example, that will make him, come to Rachel Notley's side. I don't know what the federal government can say other than, we are going to exert our jurisdiction as strongly as we can.
But the story did shift this week in the sense that it is now an open question whether Kinder Morgan wants to pursue this and under what conditions it can pursue this. And the decision to stop the non-essential spending until May 31st could be a prelude to pulling out altogether. So the federal government's first problem is not trying to make peace between the two premiers as much as finding out that under what conditions Kinder Morgan will pursue the pipeline, if any. And I don't think anyone at Kinder Morgan seriously believes that peace is going to break out between the two NDP governments between now and the end of May.
So I wondered, Andrew, okay, they're not going to reach a compromise. There's no compromise to be had. Positions are entrenched. I think everybody's right about that. But if the federal government forced John Horgan's hand, could he then at least say to the electorate and to the Green Party, I did everything I could, there's nothing left?
You can see situations in which you could find a face-saving route for him. You could give him some sort of thing that he could claim as a partial victory. I think the problem also, though, is it's not just the government. I think as much or more of a problem is the protesters on the ground. People are going to be arriving the more and more as the weather warms up. People who have convinced themselves that they are entitled by a higher calling to go against court orders and to go against federal authority and go against the law on this and block it by any means necessary. So the government and lawful authority is one set of issues. Another set of issues is people who are taking extra legal means to try and prevent this. And that's as much or more serious an issue in terms of the willingness of the federal government to stick this out. If they've got people screaming in the streets, being dragged away by cops, et cetera, that's a particularly daunting spectacle. I think it would be helpful if you could get the the lawful authorities to all agree to work within a common frame of law. So getting the government of British Columbia on side in terms of a process would probably be helpful.
Is this a constitutional crisis? At least two of you have lived through real ones.
So not yet.
Okay.
First of all, there has not been legislation that goes against the Constitution passed in British Columbia at this point, which is why there's no law to disallow. The fact that British Columbia the government is talking about consulting on those issues or going to court, there is nothing there that is against the rule of law or calls for a constitutional crisis. Where the issue might become even touchier, and it is the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about, is there is also in there the indigenous nations and their role in this story. And increasingly, that well is being poisoned against Kinder Morgan. And for Justin Trudeau, it's one thing to have a climate change strategy that says, I want a pipeline, and it goes off the rail. It's another if at the same time his hope of reconciliation with Canada's Indigenous people is also poisoned by the same fire.
Except there are First Nations that are in favor of the pipeline. It's just the ones that are against it are certainly getting maybe more attention. Althea, a constitutional crisis or not?
No, I don't think so. But I think it is a crisis in terms of our ability to tell the world that Canada is a safe place to invest if we can't get this pipeline through. There are still a handful of cases sneaking their way at the Federal Court of Appeal. There are 2 cases at the BC Superior Court. This thing could legally drag on for a while. And yes, Chantal is right about, in fact, most experts are right, I think, that this is really the federal government's jurisdiction. But there are perhaps little sidebar issues that could be resolved with, for example, a decision at the Supreme Court. That's not going to solve this issue. But there are tools the federal government could do to say, like, why don't they bring in legislation to say clearly that this is what they plan to do, clarify the federal government's viewpoint and help perhaps the court in the future make an informed decision as to what Parliament's will was. It's not a constitutional crisis, but it does beg the question, like, what authority does the federal government have if it can't exert its authority?
Andrew.
Yeah, I agree that people have not, the governments themselves have not yet passed legislation that is plainly unconstitutional. They have talked about it in both British Columbia and Alberta. I mean, Alberta's threat to cut off the oil supplies to BC is just as unconstitutional as BC musing about blocking the oil from coming in from Alberta. So, as I say, step one is get everybody to agree to stay within the bounds of the Constitution. BC is also, the government is also playing a kind of a game of sort of dragging their feet, being slow to provide permits, not really dealing seriously with protesters that have broken the court orders on this. So they're kind of playing a double act of saying, well, we're not actually doing anything extra constitutional here. We're just, following the process. But when it's very clear that the constitutional authority rests with the federal government, I haven't seen any serious scholar who's disputed that, then if you're just kind of holding up the clock and trying to run out the clock on Kinder Morgan, at some point you are not openly defying the Constitution, but you're playing games with it.
Okay, I have 1 minute, so you can all weigh in with like 2 words. Do you think that this pipeline will actually get built? I know it's a prediction, and you all hate them, but if you're going to put some money on it, which you shouldn't, where would you land? Andrew, we'll start with you.
I'd say it will be built, but I think it could be a long, hot summer.
Chantal?
I'd say that if it is built, it's probably the last pan-Canadian or interprovincial pipeline that we will see for a long, long time in this country.
Really? Okay. Althea?
I don't know.
Honesty, I love it. Okay, I also don't know, but I think this meeting on Sunday is important, so we'll see how it unfolds. Thank you all, appreciate it. Good news for people who love politics as much as we do. At Issue is also a podcast. You get extra content, and of course, the main panel in podcast form every week. This week's bonus topic, Maxime Bernier, remember him? And his book about what it means for the Conservative Party, what the new leadership means. You can find that on iTunes, any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/thenational.
And still ahead on The National, Donald Trump pulls a huge 180 on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, now reconsidering a deal he once called a disaster.
And we'll have more Canadians sporting team colors in support of Humboldt, Saskatchewan. It is Jersey Day across the country. Here's a glimpse of some of the people taking part in BC and Alberta.
My family is extremely involved with the hockey community. My brother has been on countless bus trips, so for me, I could not imagine if one of those times something had happened to my brother.
It's crazy to think they had their whole career ahead of them, and then it just kind of got taken away that quick.
One of the developing stories we're watching on The National tonight, the search for the missing 10-year-old Ariel Jeffrey Kawaku. 1 month after he disappeared, his family says they refuse to give up hope.
30 longues nuits sans mon fils, sans aucune nouvelle.
That was Kawaku's father today on the exhausting month since the boy went missing in Montreal. The leading police theory is that he fell into a river and drowned, but his family believes he's still alive, and they want more police resources devoted to the search. It hasn't even been released to the public yet, but James Comey's upcoming memoir already has people talking. Details from the former FBI director's book were published online today, and the U.S. president likely won't be happy about many of them. Comey compares Donald Trump to a mob boss, and he describes how he says the president became fixated on trying to disprove the salacious details in the now notorious dossier. The book, called A Higher Loyalty, is set to be released next week.
Well, Donald Trump has called the Trans-Pacific Partnership a disaster, a job killer, and the greatest danger to U.S. manufacturing. So that he may be considering a complete about-face has understandably turned a lot of heads. Lindsay Duncombe explores that striking moment and what it might mean.
We want to sell beef.
Donald Trump is a president not afraid of changing his message depending on his audience. Today, he met with lawmakers from states with big farm economies. After the cameras left, a remarkable reversal.
He multiple times reaffirmed the point that TPP might be easier for us to join now.
Wait, what? Trump signed an executive order withdrawing the U.S. from the Trans-Pacific Partnership days after his inauguration.
Great thing for the American worker, what we just did. We will also immediately stop the job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership.
He was elected after campaigning that trade deals, such as the TPP, were the reason factories and jobs were leaving the United States. 11 countries, including Canada, have signed the TPP. Analysts say one goal of the agreement is to curb China's economic advantages in the region. Trump said he could get a better deal on his own. So why contemplate joining TPP now? It all comes down to the farm. China has targeted its retaliatory action directly at America's heartland. And if farmers lose markets and money, Trump and Republicans could lose votes and seats in Congress. 25 Republican senators wrote this letter back in February, urging the president to get back in the TPP game. But just because Trump says something at a meeting doesn't mean he'll do it.
There should be a bill of love.
He didn't deliver on a bill to protect the Dreamers, young people brought to the U.S. illegally as children. And after saying this about the NRA at a meeting about guns,
they have great power over you people.
Trump caved and did everything the National Rifle Association wanted him to. All today's reversal really means more uncertainty. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
One of the notes I had is for the families, which is, I really hope this isn't too hard on you. I know it is, but I know you wish your kids were still alive, but at least they're having fun in heaven, still playing hockey.
A new advisory from Health Canada tonight. There's a shortage of EpiPens across the country, and EpiPen Juniors could be in short supply soon, too. Not having one can be the difference between life and death in the event of an allergic reaction. But the company that makes them says there have been delays at the manufacturing facility. Now, important to note, that does not necessarily mean you can't get one at a pharmacy, but inventory is being very carefully managed. You can visit drugshortagescanada.ca for updates. Well, thousands of med school graduates across Canada have just learned whether they've landed a spot in a residency program. It's required if they want to become a practicing doctor in this country. But a growing number of them are being forced to come up with a plan B. Last year, 68 graduates failed to match with a program. That's up from 11 in 2009. And if nothing changes, it could reach 141 over the next few years. It's an alarming trend, given the shortage of family doctors in some communities. And as Christine Birak explains, it comes at a cost.
It's the message no one about to graduate medical school wants to see. You did not match.
I just froze, and I stayed under the bed covers for a while, and it's like, oh, well now what? Because I hadn't planned for that outcome.
Just like that, Kelly Leanne's dream of becoming an emergency room doctor disappeared. Salpi Kellyan had hoped to become a surgeon.
It just kind of felt like the floor falling out from underneath your feet kind of feeling.
Matching isn't about grades. All the candidates have a medical degree. But to become a licensed doctor, you also need to complete years of supervised training or residency in a specific area of medicine. Problem is, more and more Canadian grads are not landing those residency spots, often leaving them lost and deeply in debt.
Overall, I think I'm close to $150,000.
In some cases, the rejection has been far more profound. In 2016, Robert Chu took his own life, saying, "Without residency, my degree is effectively useless."
I think it's an impossible situation that they are in.
The matching process is extremely complex, involving applications, interviews, and algorithms. Students say it's rushed and highly subjective. But medical schools insist the deeper issue is that the ratio of students to residency spots is changing.
The number of positions available to graduates of Canadian medical schools has actually decreased with time.
The number of residency spots is ultimately decided by provincial funding. While Canadian grads get first dibs, international students also go into that shrinking pool. But when a Canadian student doesn't end up becoming a doctor, taxpayers also lose out. Unlike lawyers and engineers, the public spends roughly $250,000 educating a med student. But universities don't think lowering their enrollment is the answer either. In the second and final round, Leanne matched into family medicine, but Kellyan and an estimated 80 others are now deciding whether to walk away or try again next year. Christine Birak, CBC News, Waterloo.
Coming up, we'll meet a young Canadian hockey player whose personal sticks out for Humboldt has exploded on social media. But first, more scenes from Jersey Day across Canada. Some developing stories we're following on The National tonight, from pots of coffee to actual pot. The Second Cup coffee chain is looking to enter the marijuana market. They partnered with a cannabis company to open dispensaries across Canada once recreational marijuana is legalized. A 15-year-old girl from Ontario has been invited to the royal wedding next month. Faith Dickinson was recognized by the royal family last year for her charity Cuddles for Cancer. Kensington Palace says Prince Harry and Meghan Markle chose to invite a number of young people who serve their communities. In addition to Jersey Day, we've been showing people across the country who have been leaving out hockey sticks to show their support for the Humboldt Broncos. But one tribute in particular caught the attention of thousands of people on Twitter. Take a look at Matthew Heaney, 12 years old. He's been playing hockey since he was 5. When he got home from school yesterday, he stopped by the stick outside his house, and then this touching gesture. Now, Matthew didn't know the video was taken or that he'd become Twitter's newest celebrity, so his sister broke the news to him when he got home from school, and that is our moment of the day.
I gotta show you something. Come here. So neat? Yeah, come sit here. But I posted on Twitter and it almost has 9,000 likes on it. And it's almost 3,000 retweets. And you're gonna be on the news tonight. Look, you wanna see what people have to say?
How though? This is a prank.
No, it's not.
What?
Look, my phone's glitching because so many people are saying stuff.
How did that many people see it?
Because when people retweet it, then it shows to all their followers. And I only posted it last night, and that's how many it's already at.
Oh my God!
The Sticks Out movement, putting it on the porch. How'd you hear about that?
I saw it on Instagram and I told my parents I wanted to put my stick outside.
Did you do the green tape for the Broncos team?
Yeah.
What was your reaction to when I just showed you that big tweet that almost has 9,000 likes on it?
I was shocked. I didn't think it was real and I thought it was a prank.
Were you a little embarrassed at first?
Yeah.
But now look at how many people think you're the sweetest kid ever.
Sure is. They took that video for us, and of course, Andrew, as I mentioned, the video of the kiss, he had no idea that was being taken.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose no better show of character than that, right? Not thinking that anyone's watching. But, you know, as remarkable as that is, I still just can't get over his reaction to the notion that the tweet circulated as widely as it did. That's pretty incredible, pretty special for him. Although I have to say, if I was a kid his age, I don't know if the excitement of becoming famous would outweigh the fear of embarrassment. But anyways, that's another story. That is the National for this Thursday, April 12th. And as we wrap up the show, we do want to give you one last look at Canadians taking part in Jersey Day in support of Humboldt, Saskatchewan. Good night.
Today on April 12th, our school joined together to wear jerseys in support of the Broncos.
With the letters, we want to spread the love and support as this is a difficult time for many families.
We are truly sorry for all the losses, and we know that the legacy of the Broncos will forever live on.